the 42 ideals of Ma'at. My mother is nature. My father is time. I am a Neski queen.
Hey Baltimore, welcome to another show. I am your guest, Aneski Anna Kimset. Aneski literally means she belongs to me. Today is Thursday, March the 28th. This is the fourth Thursday in March. So we're airing live, and this is episode 12, I do believe. And our guest tonight has not joined us. I'm hoping he still will. And I also sent out a few invites just in case we have some people who have some time to join us for the conversation. But first of all, you guys know me. The show must go on. And more importantly, I wanted to make sure that I kept the show going specifically because of what tonight's topic is all about. The conversation is simply about consistency. And so I felt it would be unjust if I didn't stand by the things that I talk about when I'm with you guys, because again, I'm a person that definitely tries to walk the walk as well if I'm going to talk the talk. So it didn't seem, didn't sit well with me to cancel the show and not have the show when I want to introduce to you the importance of consistency in our culture. So we're going to stick with the itinerary. If anyone joins us, it would be great. And if not, if you don't join us from the guest side, please make sure you join us. Make sure you are tapping in, subscribing, getting notifications, liking and commenting the shows, and making sure that, this show grows and expands because it's an important thing, mental health, and more importantly, having a mental and social, healthy emotional culture is important. And one of the things that I feel as though affects us in our culture, in our urban culture especially, is the fact that we do not put emphasis on these particular things. So, with that being said, you'll know very simple guidelines to join the show. Remember, LOVE. We're going to listen to everyone, openly express with respect, view opinions individually, and end in peace and love. So, if you can abide by that, then I'm pretty sure you're going to enjoy the show. Again, feel free to tap in, whether you want to comment. For those who have a guest link, chime in, jump in, and make sure you guys are sharing the information. So, normally at this time I would introduce my guest, which is a good friend of mine, would have been a good friend. We are good friends. He hasn't reached out, and I'm hoping everything's okay. But a gentleman by the name of YODA Fresh, he is a music artist, local music artist here in Baltimore. And I've known him for quite some time now, almost about 20 years. And so this was a perfect thing to have this conversation with. And at this time, I would normally have, them express what they do and how it helps them overcome any mental social barriers in their life. As you all know, I am very transparent. I let it be known that as a poet, as a director, producer, self-publishing author, all of that I put my passion into is stems from a lot of mental and social barriers that I've had to overcome. And so I use those outlets to express, certain emotions or certain moments or certain things that I feel as though there are others who could identify with. And then I try to put emphasis on healing and uplifting and progressing, not just individually, but as family, community, and then as a whole, as a culture. And so, these shows, doing this podcast, I've been doing this podcast since October the 19th was the first show. When I tell you, I go back and I listen to the shows so many times over and over, because the more I listen to them, the more I feel myself growing and elevating in my purpose. And also I'm getting, little messages that actually pertain to my life at that moment. And so I encourage everyone, please, even if you can't get through a podcast, tap in for a little bit. Just check out what's being said, because I promise you, there are some things that people just don't want to talk about in depth. But when they are talking about them, they're not as transparent as they may want to be because of the feeling of being judged or misunderstood. And I promise you, this is a platform that is open to hear, anyone out, because the more we listen to each other and invoke the spirit of understanding and empathy, the more we'll be able to be more kind and conscious of our actions and how they affect everyone and how they affect each other. And we can, dial it down on the negativity, because we will find that loving people is a lot more easier, it's a lot more uplifting, it's a lot more fulfilling than doing the opposite. So just wanted to take the time to say that, being that so far I am the guest as well as your host, and I hope you all are enjoying the conversation that we're having so far. About this time, I'm gonna stick with the itinerary. I'm not going to stay long, but again, I want to stand on what I say, because tonight's show is about being consistent. I want to talk about consistency, and I don't think, as a culture, we understand, how if consistency or inconsistencies affect us. Even from just being at home, being a mom, I found that the more consistent I am, the more stability the children have, and the more smoother things can come. Not saying that challenges don't arise, but we are able to resolve them and be resilient in a more productive manner. And so these are things that I would like to, spread out to introduce to others who may not have taken the time to be more mindful of their consistencies or inconsistencies and how it's affecting the people around them, and also how it's affecting them directly. So I'm going to go on and show the flyer that was posted early in the week. Um, and we normally go off of our quote. And the quote we have is from, he's a male African American, Curtis Tyrone Jones. And I did not get to research him as much, guys. I've been working overtime. To be honest, just came off an 11-day straight work week. And so, I dedicate as much as I can, but I am dedicated. Anyway, Curtis Tyrone Jones, I came across this quote and I found it to be so interesting, because I think this is one of the things that we run into when it comes to speaking of consistency or inconsistency in our culture. Curtis says, life is never too heavy to pick up where we left off. That's deep. Life is never too heavy to pick up where we left off. And so that quote kind of hit it home for me, because being a mother of children, of 7 children, and having to start that stage, those steps, over and over again, I had to, I had really thought about how, yeah, each time I found myself in a position where I had given life and had to, come back to the point where I'm, mothering or nurturing an infant who is helpless and cannot do nothing for themselves. I found that each time, to be honest, it kind of got, easier. Not just saying that, I'm not recommending to go out and have 7 children to see, to test, your ability and knowledge on having children. I don't recommend it. But for those who have been through the process quite a few times, you may agree with me that some things became supernatural as a mom, who providing. And so, I remember each child going through certain emotional points, whether it was frustration, disappointment, or even, a little depression. I found myself, having to pull myself out of these moments. And then they were heavy moments. It was like, sometimes I'm just like, dang, it's not the right time. And, other things I got, what are the children going to think? And, it's just, a lot, dealing with different thoughts and such. And so the thought that came to me with this quote was that each time, that I had to pick myself up and start this process again, the load was not as heavy as when it first initially, when I first initially started going through those phases. And by the time I got to Toussaint, who was the 7th, it was just like, hey, it is what it is. You got to do what you got to do. And so I totally agree with, Curtis's quote that no matter what you're doing in life, right? Um, if you come across a hiccup, or if you come across a trip in the road, a bump, or whatever you want to call it, don't get yourself in a state where you feel like you can't pick back up, because consistency isn't about, being perfect or doing everything just right. Consistency is just being able to do, the same thing, over and over and over again. And so of course I'm not saying, oh, go out there and just keep making mistakes and doing things, but what I'm saying is, because life happens without our control or beyond what we can plan. When things happen that kind of throw you off, get used to being consistent about getting back on board. Like, if you're a person who constantly find yourself in a situation, you feel like this always happening to me. Okay, that can be a consistent feeling, but also think about the times you came out, how more consistent that is. Make your consistencies be about productive and progressive actions. Because I think at one point in time, I really got consistency mixed up with perfection, right? So if I set my mind on my goal to something and I would travel along the way, I felt like, if I hit a bump in the road and I just need to quit, I wasn't being consistent. I messed up and I let it alone. But it was quite a few things that I could have went back to. And to be honest, writing is one of those things that, I would, soon as something wouldn't go right, forget it. I'm just going to. That's why I was an accountant for the state of Maryland for 10 years, because I was so disappointed in not, completely getting to a certain point in my mind, where I wanted to be as far as a writer and an author and a poet, that I quit. And the thing about it is, sometimes being consistent is not about the downfall, it's about the upbringing. So we need to make sure that we are consistent in our resilience. We need to make sure that we make being resilient be consistent. We stumble and fall, our children watching us, and sometimes they develop habits or pick up habits, whether it's hereditary or whether it's genetic, or whether it's just from watching and observing. The habits that they pick up is because that's what they see consistently. That is what has become stable in their life. And so, if we show them that it's not always about being oppressed and being down, that's not the consistent nature. The nature is getting out. If we show them a consistent set of what people call role models, but examples of people who can have done things or did things to come from what we are trying to get from, which is what they would consider an oppressed state, then they would have better options in life. I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on things that aren't consistent, like becoming an NBA player. The odds of that, compared to how many talented youth that can play basketball, same with the NFL, how many talented youth that has, what is the consistent number of these people making it into the pros? There aren't, it's few. So therefore the consistency isn't much, therefore we got to make sure we give our children other options instead of always trying to make them feel like they got to hit the big bank or else they're failures, because that's what they believe. If they attempt to do something and they didn't get the $1 million deal, whether it's even in music, whether whatever their talent or skill may be, and they quit and they feel like because they didn't do it, they're unable to accomplish things. We are setting a tone here that is affecting how they are have an outlook on life, and how we have an outlook, because we're setting the tone, we're setting the environment, we're setting the energy. So we get into the mind state of understanding that the things that were positive and productive in our life, if we drop the ball in that area, we do not have to ever look at that and say that that point was too heavy, it was too much, we can't go back up and pick up. We do not have to stay in a poor mind state or a poor setting or a poor environment because we dropped the ball. The consistency is not in falling down, but in getting up. So Even with tonight's show, I had a quite a quick emergency 30 minutes before it was time to start at 7. And it was just like, you know, what am I going to do? Here it is, I've got my I already got my ad out late. I already got my post late. Wanted to post it last Thursday, but just working and I tried to give everything my full attention. I don't like to just quick pop, boom, bang. I like to make sure my I's are dotted and my T's are crossed. So of course I wanted to put reasonable effort into making the flyer. And if you guys look at the flyer in the back, is punching gloves, boxing gloves hanging up. And I put that there because, life is a fight. Being consistent in life is a fight. You got to get in the ring with your mind, body, and soul. And you got to battle it out to come out on top. And so being consistent is that. It's a battle. It's a battle of obedience. It's a battle of dedication. Ramadan just passed, and going into the Jewish holiday of Passover. Those there, I've seen people who participated in these activities, being on themselves. I can't do this because of this particular holiday, or this particular thing that I'm celebrating. And I encouraged them. I admired them for being consistent, for being obedient. Because at the end of the day, what we don't really understand about the power of being obedient is teaching you to be diligent, and it's teaching you to be faithful and loyal to your standards that you set. And the universe conforms to that. The laws of the universe says that when you're obedient and consistent, you will be blessed. And even in religion, there's a scripture, there's a verse in religion, in the Christian religion, the Bible says, if my people that are called by my name humble themselves, turn from their wicked ways and heed my voice, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land. Now, I may misquote paraphrasing, but the point is, that particular verse lines up a certain amount of things, that is speaking to be done in order to be blessed. And so it doesn't matter your religion. They're going to, whatever your belief system, trust and believe. When you make a commitment to yourself to do certain things, to reach a certain goal, and you commit to it in obedience, then your goal will be met. Try it. Trust me. And the thing about it is, when you put yourself in that mindset, and then what we do as humans, as soon as we fall short, we want to quit and say, see, it wasn't for me. You know what? I can't do it. No, the consistency is not in being perfect. It's about going back and saying, you know what? I slipped up. Let me go back to my commitment. Let me go back to what I said I was going to do, and let me start again, and let me be consistent. I like creating habits. People don't even understand that you can create a habit. You can create a habit. This is the power of your mind, teaching your body how to do something without having to think about it. There's a way to do that. And one of the things is to do it consistently for 20 days. Now, people hear that and feel when they fall, I missed my 20 days. That's it. I didn't create the habit. No, because there's more to it. The key is when you mess up, when you fall short, pick up the habit and do it again. You start your days over. So you get to day 7 and you screw up. Start your 20 days over. Create good habits. You do it the 7th, you're going to get past the 7 days. If you got to keep getting the 7 days and keep falling, trust and believe. The going back to your commitment is going to create the consistency you need to have that habit. So the second time you fall, you might have gotten to 12 days. Okay, so what? Start over. Your 20 days got to start. Next day, you pick up day 1. Keep going. You may hit 12 days, a few days in a row. But don't stop. Be consistent. It is not too heavy to pick back up where you left off. So pick back up. Next time you go, you might end up at 18 or 19 days. Don't cut yourself short. You fall short at 19 days, start over. Pick back up. Be consistent and start 1 through 20. And trust and believe when you reach your 20, when you reach it in an honest and earnest manner, you will have created your habit, and more importantly, you have empowered yourself. You would have lifted your self-esteem. You have created confidence, and you have, more importantly, accomplished a goal and showed yourself that you could do anything you put your mind to. So that is why I always say, when it comes to Be More Mindful podcast as a whole, it is the mission for me. I do this because this is my purpose, and this is my message, and this is my mission, and my ministry to you all, through the power of words, through the power of production, poetry, storytelling, for us to be a better people. I start at home always. I encourage my children to be consistent. I encourage them to set goals and try to reach them. And I've learned, you can't all the time set the goal all the way up here. Sometimes your main goal may be up here, but you got to set little ones in between that's going to lead to that, which is one of the reasons why you see I do not have a virtual background, because part of the streaming issue and the lagging is using the virtual background. I'll need to get a green screen, which is a small step goal that I get to work towards. So you guys will be seeing me with a green screen soon, because I'm going to be consistent and I'm dedicated to my purpose. So that wraps up our second segment of the show, which is basically just going over the quote. You guys, again, feel free to comment, share, like, or dislike. However, make sure you join the conversation with me. And we're going to get ready to go into the third segment of the show, which is what I like to call experts versus experience. And eventually, I'll be getting to the point where I'll be sharing these articles with you guys on screen as well. Again, I started off with WKIM, and I'm grateful for Marshall Juice for the opportunity, because it opened a light in me that is allowing me to shine. And now, being here in Full Authors Media Network as my own engineer, I love learning and engaging. And so once I get to the point where the show is just functioning like I want, you guys will be able to share a lot of information with me, not just virtually but audibly. I'm looking forward to having calls coming in and guests. And however, but we're going to grow. We're definitely going to grow. That's, if we don't be consistent in anything else, it's definitely in growth. Okay. So experts versus experience. I always like to make sure I tell everyone that, of course, I am not licensed as a professional to give any type of diagnoses or studies. This is just a conversation. But what I do feel as though is, with me, my high school diploma is 64 credits, college credits, that, my experience has given me enough just to, speak on my take on it, and then maybe even, just open someone's eyes to another outlet, to another view, another outlook on life, on what they need to do. I never discourage anyone who seeks professional help. I actually always encourage it. If you do need help with any mental or social barriers, and what you have is not working for you, that's what the professionals are paid to do. Trust me, I had to pay. And so I've been in those situations, and they have helped me, and they have given me tools that I use, some on a very daily basis. And again, one of them is actually the writing and the pursuing of the podcast, the pursuing of the productions and the shows I do, because they are outlets, again, for me. So today's experts versus experience conversation comes from a article. It's an article that you have to subscribe to the actual website to actually get a view of this particular article. They have free articles and they have member-only articles. This was a member-only article, and for me, of course, I wanted to become a member because of the information that they give, and they have quite a few other articles that I want to check out. But it's from medium.com, and the title of the article is "The Power of Consistency: Unveiling the Psychology Behind Our Actions." And was written on October the 22nd in 2023. It says exploring the human mind is the author, and they may just be, author for that particular website, or that may just be their name for that particular website, but you're able to follow that author for Exploring the Human Mind. And so if you ever go on medium.com and you see any free articles written by Exploring the Human Mind, then you will hear the works of this particular person that I'm reading from. Now, the article was broken down in different sections, and it was a very easy read. I'm not gonna go into too much. Like I said, I'm not gonna be before you guys long. I started as late as possible, hoping to have a guest because I don't want you guys to think that the conversation is just all about me talking. I do want to hear from others. I am a talker. I am a talker. I can talk all day, and I can segue and switch subjects a million times. But the point is learning how to have conversations again. So I want to listen to people too. I want to listen because I learn from listening as well to others. So, but this particular section is called Social Influence in Group Behavior. And it says the psychology of consistency extends to our interactions with others. In a social context, the desire to maintain consistency can lead to groupthink. This phenomenon occurs when individuals conform to the group's beliefs and decisions to avoid cognitive dissonance. Group dynamics often rely heavily on consistency to keep the peace and foster a sense of belonging. And I just want to stop right there because that right there definitely was one of the things that stood out to me about consistency in a group setting, and it made me think about the youth again. I love investing in what I value, and I value the future, and so I'm always behavior watching, analyzing, comparing, and contrasting young people as well as what my experiences was as a young person. And I can definitely identify with the last statement with the need to keep consistency, to keep the peace, and foster a sense of belonging. Uh, I'm pretty sure many people can identify uh, doing something or falling prey to peer pressure because you just didn't want to be the one to stand out, or you just didn't want to be the one to be combative, and that I thought was one of the most important things to discuss tonight because it's hard being an individual that is standing against the majority, and especially when the majority is pushing something that is not healthy or productive in our society. And even in music, and that's one of the things I love about YODA Fresh. He has an array of music, he has an array of topics, and he definitely, I love it. His music is from his heart. There are things that he speak of in his music that I know he's speaking on the truth, and I know he's speaking from experience. And so it's hard being a musician, in these days age, and not fall to speaking on certain things, but in a way, are we doing so in a manner that is teaching and educating, or are we doing so in a way that's glorifying? And so, one of the things I like about YODA Fresh music is, to me, he comes from a teacher's standpoint, right? He's not older than me at all, but he definitely gives me OG vibes. Like he has a song in his that one is rather old, but it's one of my favorites. Been out for quite a few years, called Training Day, and I love listening to him because he's basically like he takes you on a ride in the feet of, or take you on a story in a ride. Excuse me for starting, but it makes me think of the movie Assault Train Day when Denzel takes the young boy for a ride in the hood, and basically asks you, "Are you ready?" And so I wanted to talk about the comparison of music when it's coming from a standpoint of teaching and educating versus glorifying. Our children know so much now through music. They're so advanced now through music that I feel bad for them because they have a load full of knowledge, but not the maturity to understand what it is they're even learning. And so I think it causes so much destruction and disruption in our communities and our families because we have these influences out here that are giving our children information and not really guiding them through it, or not really giving them a chance to grow to understand. Even now with the music station I listen to, the census is gone. I remember back in the day, they had you have two different kind of tracks. You had to have radio edit, you had to have explicit version. If you wanted the explicit version, you had to spend money. If you wanted to listen to it on the radio for free, then you got the radio edit. And Brooklyn Zoo is one of my favorite songs. Like, man, back in the day, and I'm like, Shannon, and I'm singing and I'm going and I'm listening to Shimmy Shimmy Y'all. And I'm like, oh, dirty bastard. I'm like, listening to the radio versions. And then me, want to get the CD. I want to hear it all the time. I put the music on and it's like, oh, he's saying words. It's like, oh, so we weren't even allowed to listen to that stuff around our friends, And but I just think about how they get things have changed, we've advanced, so we have to evolve with them. We can't just shame them for not being like us. Shame on your music for not, blotting out every cuss word. What does that do? Don't do nothing. It doesn't. That's not stopping what's happening. What we have to do is evolve with them, grow with them. So we have to make sure we break it down and educating them on what they're listening to and what they're seeing. Even cartoons now are not cartoons. And y'all know my impression of cartoons back in the day, how the things that they displayed were racist and everything. But that's not the point of the conversation. The fact of the matter is, even then, parents weren't having conversations with us about what we were watching. It took for me to have to experience racism in myself personally for me to have a distaste for the black woman that portrayed in Tom and Jerry. Like, stuff started hitting me when Bugs Bunny getting hit in the face and with a pie, and now his hair's and he's big red lips and all that. It took for me to experience, that for me to come to grips with, some things that was going on in life. And so I think that that's something that we need to evolve with our children. We have to come from a standpoint of, we understand like separation of church and state, there's separation of parent and child, but we have to be able to communicate with them, have conversations with them, ask them, do you know what they mean when they say that? I mean, because Sexy Red is being played on the radio. There's somebody child going around singing about brown booty holes. Do they really understand what they're saying? Because I wonder how many children will really take to it. Consistency, we as human beings, we need consistency. We desire consistency. It's what we fall into, what we consider peaceful and belonging in what we're going to be consistent in. And so if you have your environment to be peaceful and belonging with that type of thing, being consistent, then your child is going to, grow up feeling like this is, how things should be. But if you set the tone in the household for what you want to be consistent, then those are the things that, are going to be passed on. That's the language and the type of characteristics that's going to be instilled in them. So that was my spin on, that as far as being experienced, and the experts say, that when it comes to groups, people tend to be consistent where they are at peace and where they feel belong. So if you have some inconsistencies in your household and in your family, tap into that. Find out what the unrest is. Find out where the conspicuousness is being felt. Make sure everyone feels belonged or is understood to be loved equally, because that type of inconsistency will cause a disruption that can ruin a relationship between a mother and child or father and their child. So again, be more mindful of the consistencies that you have in your life. And so with that being said, like I said, you guys, I'm not going to hold you long. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to give you my mindful thought of today. All right. And it's quite easy because I have two quotes here. One is from Buddha, He says a jug fills drop by drop. And the other is a Nigerian proverb. It says an emaciated child cannot be fattened in just one day. And for those who don't know what emaciated means, emaciated is basically like a very extremely thin, malnourished child, you know. And so, again, Buddha says a jug gets filled drop by drop. Nigerian proverb says an emaciated child cannot be fattened in one day. So, the mindful thought of today is this, step by step. Consistency is not about a linear uh, plane. It's not linear at all. It's more like dashes, step by step. If you have inconsistencies in your life, if things are, not the way you feel as though they can be for you to be at peace, if you have no serenity in your life, look into the things that you are being inconsistent about. And more importantly, look into the things that you are being consistent about. Are you being consistent in something that is progressive and productive? Are you being consistent in things that is adding to your health? Are you being consistent in things that are helping you to grow? If not, then maybe you might want to adjust, fine tune it a little bit, step by step, drop by drop. Fill your jug, fatten your emaciated child. But it's not going to happen in one day. It's not going to happen overnight. It may take a year. It may take 2 years. Sometimes it could take 20. Think about the habit that takes 20 days just to become one. So be more mindful, Baltimore, of your consistencies and inconsistencies. And more importantly, make sure we are taking steps to having positive, healthy consistencies that can help our family, our community, and as well as our culture. This is it for another show of Be More Mindful podcast. Again, I am your host, Aneski Anna Kimsat. Aneski literally means she belongs to me. I thank you for having me for a little 37 minutes. Not bad for a show with no other guests. And please make sure y'all tap in, join the conversation. I'll see you again on the second Thursday in April. All right.